Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Inspired and Empowered Living TV show and podcast for a thriving business and life. We are live Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern on talk4tv.com, w4wn.com, and my YouTube channel. And you can also hear the podcast on iHeartRadio, Apple, Amazon, and many more. And today we are jumping into and continuing the Soul-Led Success series. I feel really excited about it. And this is episode 2 in the series. And we are going to be talking about reconnecting with your soul vision and your true calling. And so today, you will learn more about what it means to really connect with your soul. You'll learn what happens when you feel disconnected and some of the ways that you can start to reconnect. And we're going to continue with our series. So really excited. And as always, those of you who are listening and viewing live, you can type the questions into the chat. So, have you ever felt unsure of your direction, even though you know that you're meant for more? Or are you thinking, reflecting, trying to figure it out, but the clarity just isn't happening? And what I call it is spinning. If you're in spin mode, which is obsessing those thoughts over and over again, this episode will help you to shift something and help you to go beyond that overthinking into reconnecting with your soul vision. So let's talk about why so many women like you may be feeling unclear. Well, if you are feeling like you're overthinking every decision, you're out of connection with your amazing intuition, and you go into thinking mode, you may get an intuitive answer and then you start questioning yourself. And in fact, you end up questioning yourselves constantly. Or you may, in your business, you start, or even in your life, you start a task and you go and you start moving forward and then you stop. And then you lose momentum. That is all the way that you can feel unclear. And on an emotional level, maybe you're feeling frustrated, or you're doubting yourself, or you're feeling a disconnect. Something's off and you don't know how to reconnect or go deeper within yourself. And what I want you all to know is it's not because you're not capable. It's because you've been trying to create clarity from the wrong place. You have been creating clarity or trying to create clarity from your head, and it doesn't work from your head. So we're going to go more deeply into that during the show today. So let's talk about your soul vision versus that logical, ego-driven goals. And I also want to define so we're all on the same page what your soul is. And the way that I define your soul is your soul is this vast energy essence of who you are. You are at the core of your being, you are light, you are love, and you can radiate that energy outwards. And then there is also a part of you called your higher self. And your higher self is this wise, unconditionally loving part of you. And both your higher self and your soul are there for the asking. And so, if you want to reconnect, we're going to talk more about that. So we have some questions coming in. So let's get to the questions and then I'll continue talking about that ego logical part versus your soul part. So Mickey asks, why are we so quick to question ourselves? Because Mickey and all of you, all right, it's like I said, it's not because you're not capable. You actually have a direct connection. We all do, to that deeper part of us. But what happens is if you have learned, you've been trained not to trust yourself from a very young age. If you haven't learned to trust yourself, you will question yourself. You will doubt yourself. And usually that has to do with how you were brought up. And I will tell you, most of us were brought up in families. Okay, so you're not alone. Most of you were brought up in families that were your parents or caretakers didn't teach you to listen to yourself. They didn't teach you to trust yourself. They taught you to listen to them. Now, on a realistic level, when you're a child, there are times when you do need to listen to your parents. Like if you're putting your hand on the stove, your parent needs to say, stop that, or don't do that, or you're going to get burned. And sometimes you may end up getting burned, but you learn. But so your parents are there to teach you. But what happened is very often they didn't teach you how to connect more deeply to yourself. They didn't teach you to start listening and trusting yourself, like I said before. And so what happens is you learn, and here's the thing, they probably didn't know it, because if they knew how to do it, they would have taught you. Because most of you grew up in families where your parents loved you the best that they knew how to do it. So if they knew it, they would have taught it. But most of the time, they didn't know how. And so you grow up disconnected. You grow up not trusting yourself. You grow up self-doubt, questioning yourself. It's part of what happens. And now I want you all to know you all have the power to change it. You all have the power to change the patterns. And Misty says, but we change all the time. It can be hard to keep up with things. Yes, you are changing all the time. And you also want to make sure that you're changing in that, like towards your potential. You want to move towards that potential, which is when you connect with your higher self and your soul and the higher aspects, those higher aspects of self, you're more able to move towards that potential. And what happens is when you are in your head spinning and not grounded, there's a disconnect. If you find yourself in overthinking, some kind of disconnect is happening. And so it's an actual message to yourself. Oh, I'm in overthinking, or I'm feeling really stressed, or I need to take a breath. And I'm always talking about breathing as a really powerful way to start noticing when you're feeling stressed out or when you're in overthinking. Feeling your breath, feeling your feet coming into your body. And so what will happen is, as you start reconnecting with yourself, it will become easier to connect with things and to connect with moving forward, to connect with what you need to keep moving forward. And Anastasia says, they didn't know themselves most of the time. Yes, your parents didn't know themselves. And if they didn't know themselves, and most of our parents didn't, okay? We think about how what our culture and our society, and whether it's in this country in America or whether it's around in the world, most generations were in survival mode, having to do what they needed to do to survive. Now, it doesn't mean that we're not in that now, but what I want with this information wasn't available. It wasn't available then, or they didn't know how to get it. They didn't even know something was wrong. And now, those of you who are listening to this show or viewing the show, you are the awareness generation. Whatever you are doing, you're becoming more aware. And in that awareness, you're able to make the changes that you need to change your lives. And if you have children, to change theirs. So congratulations for that. Okay. So Mickey says, inside the head can be an interesting place for some people. Well, okay, I'll get to so yes, inside the head can be an interesting place. And there may be time where you want to spend in your head, but if you're feeling anxious or it's not getting you anywhere and you're going around in circles, that is a time and a message to you that you need to get out of your head. And Misty says, a dangerous place the mind can be in the wrong time. Yes, because when your mind, I mean, if you knew how powerful you really are, but what happens is because of the limiting beliefs and the emotions from that subconscious mind of yours, the part of you that has recorded every moment that you've been alive, what happens is not only is the good stuff there, but a lot of your limitations and that obsessing thinking, the spinning, the ego, the logic, all of that ends up creating limitations and emotions that will keep you stuck. It keeps you frustrated. It keeps you disconnected. And yes, you want to be able to shift your mind so that you're in the right place at the right time, not the wrong time. Okay, let's get back to logical and ego-driven goals. And so what are logical, ego-driven goals? So if you are shooting on yourself, SHOULDING, and you are basing your goals on what you should do, you are in your ego. And it's not helpful to you. If you are basing your goals on outside voices, oh, this one, and I know many people that their first career was based on what their parents wanted them to do, not on what they wanted to do. And then you may be in midlife and all of a sudden you're like, you know what? This isn't what I want to do. I want to do something else. I want to follow my soul. And that is why so many women are now building their businesses, building the online business. That's what I help clients do. It's when you've awakened to that you can then start moving forward in a way that's in alignment. And if you are focusing on, you need to prove something, that's ego. You need to achieve, that's ego. Or if you feel that you need to do something so that you're enough, that's your ego. Now, here's the thing. Sometimes or often the ego hides. And so these are things that this is about learning to go below what's happening and start asking yourself, what's happening for me right now? Am I reacting to an outside voice? Or am I trying to prove something or prove that I'm enough so that I have to achieve? That is your ego. Now, here's the thing, and I want you to know it's not wrong. You learned it. You learned how to live by your ego. And on a psychological level, because I always come from that psychology place, I also want you to know that a healthy ego is really important in order for you to make the changes you want. We're talking about the unhealthy ego. I call it the wounded ego. Okay, instead of saying unhealthy, let's call it the wounded ego. And that wounded ego is based on experiences from your childhood, from your early adulthood, or there's trauma that has happened. And it also could be based on past lives or ancestral, but it's about those limiting and beliefs and emotions that are creating that wounded ego. And so it's about learning how to connect and go beyond the wounded ego. Now, your soul-led vision feels expansive. When you're connected with your soul-led vision, you feel you're aligned. Your life feels meaningful. Your business feels meaningful. It comes with this deep sense of knowing. You know that you're on the right track. You know that you're on the right path. And you are in this energy of what I call flow. Things just flow easily. You create momentum. And when you're in that soul-led vision, it reflects who you truly are and what you're here to create. And so your mind creates goals. Your soul creates the vision. And when you are connecting with your soul, you're connecting with your destiny. That's right. When you connect with your soul, you connect with your destiny. Now, why does this matter? It matters because what happens with ego goals is there's this pressure. So whether it's in your life or in your business, you're going to feel that pressure. There will be inconsistency, and you may start, then you stop, like what I was describing before. You don't have that momentum. You start something and then you fall flat. When you're in that soul vision, there's clarity, there's momentum. You feel led, like you could feel the energy of being led by something greater than that personality self. That's when you know you're on track with your soul vision. So Anastasia asked, was that listening to the voice of other people? So when you're in ego, when you're in the ego, you are listening to the voices of the other people. And what happens is when you're listening to the voices of the other people, and that's when you don't trust yourself, you second guess yourself. And I've had so many clients where they're like, oh, this is what I want to do. And then they talk about it with partners or family or friends that are not supportive. And then they start second guessing themselves and they talk themselves out of it. And then we have to talk and realign them. And so when you're listening to the voice of other people, you're not listening to the voice of your soul. Now, when you have supportive people in your life, what happens is as you talk about something, they reflect to you who you really are and your power, and they want the best for you. So, and it's not that the people that love you don't want that. They may be negative thinkers. And you can't get to a positive place with someone and who that voice, that if they're negative themselves, they are not going to help you get to that positive place. They will start to throw that doubt into you. And when you start listening to that, that's all the wounded ego. Because intuitively, you know what your truth is, and you know what needs to happen to keep moving you forward. And Misty asks, why does the voice of others overtake our own at times? And it has to do with what we learned. It was what I was talking about before when I was answering Mickey's question. Because what happens is that when you're a kid, you learn from a very young age to listen to the people around you. And most of the time, they weren't helping you to figure it out on your own. And what parents now are learning is to teach their children skills. This is life skills. This is coping skills, teaching them emotional intelligence, teaching them skills to help them to make their own decisions. And obviously at a certain point, when a child's really young, there's certain things you can do and certain things you can't. But as a child gets older, you can. And so what happens is you learn to listen to all the other voices. And so you continue to stay in that old pattern. Remember, listening to other people's voices is an old pattern that you learned. And so know that you can change the pattern and that it's possible. So, but the first thing that is to be aware of the pattern, because you can't change it if you're not aware of it. So that's what happens. So let's talk about what happens when you overthink those blocks, or why do you have overthinking blocks, and how that blocks clarity. So if you're overthinking and you're trying to figure out from your mind alone, it won't work. You'll go in circles. You'll doubt your ideas. You'll delay action. And clarity is not created through force. Okay, this is really important. It's not created through that pushing, pushing, pushing. It's created through connection. It's created through alignment. It's created through opening. And we're going to be talking more about how to do that in this series. And so you can't create clarity. You allow clarity. You access clarity. And what happens is, and I want you to know that I have been in a place where when I am in that confusion and I'm like, I don't know, what do I do? I know what it's like. Okay. So I want you all to know, I do know what it's like to be in that head spinning confusion. Like, what do I do? How do I move forward? Where do I go? What step do I take? And the more I would try to figure it out, the more I would try to make it happen, push it, force it, the more elusive, the more it did not happen. And then I would work on clearing the limiting beliefs, clearing the emotions, making the deeper connection to myself, to my higher self, to my soul. And sometimes the process can take a few minutes. Sometimes it can take a few hours. Sometimes it days. Sometimes it weeks. It depends. Sometimes it's months or even years, depending on your process, depending on the decision, depending on what you're in the process of, what's unfolding. And so that's what happens. You can't think your way into clarity. And so I also want to share with you, and I'm really excited to share that I have a masterclass coming up, and we're going to be talking more about soul clarity and really helping you to understand more about how to attract aligned clients, expand your impact and income. And it's for those of you who are coaches and women coaches, therapists, nurses, holistic and helping professionals. And what we will do is talk about how to help you get that confidence, how to help you have that soul clarity. So the confidence you stop, what do you need to do to stop that overthinking and where the doubt is? The clarity where you can really get that clarity and pinpoint your direction, your messaging, your soul vision, and then being able to consistently take inspired, aligned action. And so the masterclass is next Thursday, April 29th. And what it is you can go to the link inspiredandempoweredliving.com/masterclass. Again, inspiredandempoweredliving.com, the name of the show, /masterclass, MASTERCLASS, for those of you who are listening at a later time. And I invite you to really start going deeper in helping yourself to grow or even create the soul aligned business your soul is calling you to create. And that's what we're going to be talking about more deeply, more powerfully in my masterclass. And I have 2 times, 12 p.m. Eastern and 7 p.m. Eastern. So I look forward to seeing you there. So back to how disconnection creates confusion. Okay. So let's talk about what happens for you. So you're in that spinning mode. You're thinking, that thinking mind. Again, you're disconnected. When I say you're disconnected from your intuition. And so when you're in your head and you're spinning around or you're in confusion, you can't hear or feel or know or sense or see your intuition. You get blocked from it. And what happens is when you're blocked, you feel that disconnect, or you start feeling that frustration. And when you're in an emotion and you're not, you know that you're in a place of alignment when there's relaxation, when there's peace, when there's calm. If you're feeling angry, frustrated, confused, or you're stressed out, or you're scared, fearful, all of those create that disconnection. And so, what's going to be really important for you is to reconnect. And what happens is when you're disconnected, you can't hear that inner voice. So, yeah, you let the outer voices win. But this is about you taking your power back, becoming empowered, and listening to the inner voice within you that is sometimes, first of all, it comes very quiet at first. And then sometimes it starts screaming at you. You need to do this. Until finally, perhaps, hopefully, you're listening. And what happens is when there's disconnect and you're disconnected from your truth. And so why does that happen? Like what we were talking about, you rely on external validation. And so you override your inner voice with other voices. Or you may be like, I have a client, like she has this intuitive knowing. She's very intuitive, but she'll go ask all her friends and then gets more confused. And I say to her, Emily, you need to focus. You know the answer. And when we work together, she's able to tune in to her inner truth. And, or perhaps what happens is maybe you have a fear of getting it wrong. If you feel like you need to be perfect, or maybe you're a procrastinator because you're fearful of getting it wrong. Or there's past conditioning, like I was talking about. And so what happens is for you, it may create confusion, lack of direction, and then you start second guessing yourself. And what I want you to know is confusion is not a lack of clarity. It's a sign of disconnection. But, okay, here's the but. I also want you to know is that confusion can be the emotion right before the breakthrough. And so if you're in that state of confusion, like I was talking about before, what happened with me is I did what I needed to do. Now, it took days and I think weeks at the time that I'm talking about. You know, there are different times, like sometimes I may wake up in confusion, but when I clear my energy and I connect, I'm able to get out of that confusion. And I want you to know you can too. And so, okay, so Anastasia asks, where does doubt fit in? So doubt fits in when you're in that place where you may get a knowing or a feeling or a sensing, and you're not trusting that feeling, that knowing, that sensing, or you may not even be able to get in touch with your intuition because you doubt yourself so much. So it really depends. There is this line. If you are a self-doubter, what that really is that it's about you being able to work on starting to trust yourself more. It's learning more confidence, learning how, and I will tell you, like, I'll give you another example. I worked with this woman, Tara, and when we worked together, she felt confused. When we first started, she felt confused. She would spin in her head. She would doubt everything that she was getting, wasn't trusting her intuition at all. But as we worked together and we continued to help her clear her trauma, clear those limiting beliefs, clear the emotions, and connect more deeply to her higher self and her soul, she's able to get back into the alignment so that she doesn't have to doubt. Now, does that happen all the time? No, but that's why we work together to help her to realign. And so what I want you to know is, if you're in the doubt, the self-doubt, it's really important to first notice when you're in it, because it's very easy for you to stay in that pattern. Doubt and self-doubt is a repeating pattern. And so the first step is becoming aware of the pattern. And then we're going to be talking next week more about what you can do to help you clear the patterns. Okay. So to be continued. But right now, what I'd like to do with you is I'm going to leave this experiential piece for you, because I really want to start doing it next week. I want you to have that moment where you're getting more in touch, perhaps, with your soul or your soul vision. And so we'll do that next week. And so what I'd like to tell you is what happens when you're reconnected. When you're reconnected, you're going to feel clearer, and it doesn't have to be forced. It just comes. Remember I said about allowing? It's like it happens. You feel more peace, or you feel that calm. And you can feel the shift. I can't even begin to tell you how many of my clients, they'll start feeling stressed out or anger or frustrated or whatever's going on for them. And then by the end of the session, because we've done some processing or clearing, they're able to allow that reconnection, and they're able to feel that peace. And sometimes it's more joy, and sometimes it's more love. And so when you're connecting to peace, love, joy, you're in reconnection with your soul. And what happens is that when you're in that, you'll trust yourself more. That's where that doubt or the indecision disappears, or it doesn't take up so much energy and time for you. You're able to make decisions faster. You'll just feel or know or sense it, and you feel more aligned and you feel more confident. And what happens is, for your business, for those of you in business, You get a clearer message. You create more aligned offers, aligned with your soul, not coming from your head. This is what I should do. This is what I should do. This is what my coach is saying, even your coaches. All right. So I think coaching is really important. I'm a coach myself and I love coaching. But if you're overriding your intuitive feeling, sensing, knowing over even a coach, even a therapist, even anybody in your life, a partner, uh, a relationship, a friend, then you're not connected with your soul. And it's about having those aligned offers. And it's about when you're in that alignment, you start attracting the clients, what I call the soul aligned clients, the souls you're meant to serve. Now, in your life, what happens when you feel more aligned and confident? You get clear about how to get healthier, or you get action steps of what you need to do around your money or your finances. And there's more harmony in your relationships. And when there's a disagreement or a conflict, you're able to process through what you need to do so that you can communicate if that's what's for the highest good, for your highest good, and get the clarity that you need to help you have more harmony in your relationships. So when you connect with your soul vision, your life and your business becomes a reflection of who you are. And it's not something you try to figure out. It's something that happens. It's part of that allowing. It unfolds. And you have, like I said before, that inner knowing, that inner feeling from that deeper place within you. And it is this powerful place of being led, soul led. And that's where true success comes. And so, for those of you who are women coaches, therapists, nurses, helping professionals, and you're ready to build, start, create, or grow your online business, then you want to come to this masterclass and you want to learn how to connect with your soul vision, how to go deeper, and how that can transform your confidence so that you're not in lack of clarity, and how having soul-led clarity really creates more better messaging, alignment, and having that consistency. And that's what this is about. And so next week, attract your soul aligned clients and expand your impact and income. And so again, the link, it's this name of the show. It's the name of the show, inspiredandempoweredliving.com/masterclass. And I look forward to seeing you there. So I know Misty brought in a couple of questions. What I'm going to do, Misty, is I will start with that next week, along with your questions and that experiential exercise, so that we have plenty of time. And then we are going to go into episode 3. Is not only going to be the exercise, connecting more deeply with your soul, but you're going to learn how to clear the hidden blocks that keep you stuck. That keep you stuck in having confusion, feeling the frustration, the lack, the limitations, all those patterns of fear that will keep you stuck. Whether it's your life or your business, You want to be there to clear those patterns or to learn how to clear the patterns so that you can truly move forward. And so you definitely want to stay tuned for the next episode, episode 3 in our Soul-Led Success series next week, next Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern on talk4tv.com, w4wn.com, and my YouTube channel. And I want to support you to remember you can also listen to the podcast. We're on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Pandora, Apple, Amazon, and many more. And I look forward to connecting with you more next week. Have a great week, everybody. An inspired and empowered day, night, and week. Have a great one. Bye for now.